Disney had spent years buying the kind of assets that could live forever. Pixar gave it characters, Marvel gave it universes, Lucasfilm gave it mythology. These were businesses built around ownership, stories, franchises, libraries, worlds that could be reused across movies, merchandise, parks, games, and streaming. Then Disney bought Maker Studios. Not a film library, not a character universe, not a traditional studio with decades of intellectual property. Maker Studios was a YouTube network. It had creators, channels, views, and access to a generation that was no longer waiting for television. On paper, it looked like the next entertainment empire. But the question was not whether online video was the future. It was whether Maker actually owned enough of that future to become what Disney needed it to be. Maker Studios began with a simple but powerful insight. YouTube creators were becoming media companies before the media industry knew what to call them. In the late 2000s and early 2010s, YouTube was full of people building loyal audiences from bedrooms, garages, small studios, and improvised sets. They were not celebrities in the traditional sense. They did not need television networks to reach people. They uploaded directly, built communities directly, and learned what audiences wanted almost in real time. But many of them were still operating like individuals. They needed help selling ads. They needed production support. They needed promotion, collaboration, analytics, legal structure, and someone who could package all that scattered attention into something advertisers understood. That was the opening Maker saw. It was not trying to be a normal Hollywood studio at first. It was trying to become the layer between creators and the business world. A studio-like middleman for YouTube. It could gather many channels under one network, help those creators grow, and take a share of the money flowing through the system. For creators, Maker offered infrastructure. For advertisers, it offered scale. For YouTube, it helped professionalize an ecosystem that was growing faster than traditional media could understand. And for a moment, that model made complete sense. A single creator could be unpredictable. A network of creators looked safer. One channel could rise or fall. Thousands of channels could produce constant volume. One viral hit was luck. A giant network of daily uploads looked like a machine. By 2012, Maker was already reporting more than 1 billion monthly views. It had tens of millions of subscribers across its network and hundreds of original videos being produced every month. It was not just a few people experimenting online anymore. It had staff, offices, production capacity, and the momentum of a company that seemed to understand where attention was going before the old media giants did. That was Maker's real strength. It was early. It understood the creators because it came from creator culture. It understood that YouTube was not just a place to dump clips from television. It had its own language, its own humor, its own pacing, and its own relationship between creator and audience. Traditional studios were used to polish distance. YouTube rewarded familiarity. Traditional media worked in seasons. YouTube worked every day. Traditional stars were often managed from above. YouTube stars were built from direct connection. Maker did not invent that shift, but it positioned itself around it. The company's business was built around aggregation. It partnered with creators, helped monetize their channels, sold advertising opportunities, supported production, and tried to turn fragmented attention into a network advertisers could buy. The bigger the network became, the more impressive the numbers looked. And those numbers mattered. When Disney announced the deal in 2014, Maker was described as having more than 55,000 channels, 380 million subscribers, and 5.5 billion monthly views on YouTube. Disney agreed to pay $500 million up front, with hundreds of millions more possible if Maker hit performance targets. To many people, that sounded shocking. But from Disney's side, the logic was not crazy. Young audiences were changing their habits. They were not only watching cable television, they were watching short videos, creators, gaming content, sketches, vlogs, and internet-native entertainment. Disney had some of the most valuable intellectual property in the world, but it did not fully understand this new distribution culture from the inside. Maker looked like a bridge. It could give Disney access to younger viewers. It could provide data on what people watched online. It could help Disney understand short-form video, creator behavior, and the speed of internet culture. It could also, in theory, become a new kind of studio, one that combined Disney's brands with Maker's digital reach. That was the dream. But the problem was hidden inside the same numbers that made Maker look powerful. Maker had reach, but reach is not the same as ownership. A Disney character can be used in a film, then a sequel, then a toy, then a theme park ride, then a streaming series, then a licensing deal years later. That is how owned intellectual property compounds. The asset keeps producing value because the company controls it. Maker's network was different. Many of its strongest assets were not owned characters or owned stories. They were relationships with creators. And those creators had their own brands, their own audiences, and their own incentives. Maker could help monetize them, but it did not fully possess what made them valuable. The audience belonged emotionally to the creator. The distribution belonged structurally to YouTube. The advertising money depended on market demand and platform rules. Maker sat in the middle. That position could be valuable, but it was fragile. It meant the company had to keep proving that it added enough value to justify its share. If creators could earn directly, sell sponsorships, build their own teams, or negotiate better deals elsewhere, the network's role became less essential. At first, this weakness was easy to miss because the headline numbers were enormous. Billions of views created the feeling of inevitability. But a view is not a franchise. A subscriber is not a contract forever. A creator relationship is not the same as owning a library. This was the core tension of Maker Studios. It looked like a media empire, but much of the empire was built on rented attention. To become more durable, Maker needed to move beyond aggregation. It needed owned formats, stronger branded content, original shows, and intellectual property that could survive beyond individual creator relationships. It needed to become not just a network of YouTube channels, but a real studio with assets it controlled. That transition was much harder than the acquisition headline suggested. Building a creator network and building a studio library are different businesses. One is based on scale, speed, and relationships. The other is based on ownership, development, creative control, and long-term asset management. Maker had been excellent at riding the creator wave, but Disney needed something that could fit inside a company built around brand protection and long-term IP. The cultural mismatch became more visible over time. YouTube's strength was openness. Anyone could upload. Creators could be raw, fast, strange, provocative, personal, and unpredictable. That was part of why audiences trusted them. They did not feel manufactured. Disney's strength was control. Its brand value depended on trust, polish, and safety. The company could take creative risks, but it had to protect a family-friendly reputation across parks, films, consumer products, and global partnerships. Those two worlds did not naturally move at the same speed. For Maker, edgy creator culture could drive attention. For Disney, the wrong kind of attention could damage brand equity. Then the wider market shifted. Advertisers became more sensitive to where their money appeared online. Brand safety became a major issue. Companies wanted the reach of YouTube, but they did not want their ads next to content that could create public backlash. Platforms tightened policies. Advertisers asked harder questions. The open internet video model became less forgiving. That pressure exposed Maker's weakness. If the value of the network came from scale, but the scale included unpredictable creators, then bigger was not automatically better. A massive network could become harder to control, harder to sell safely, and harder to align with Disney's brand. The clearest turning point came in 2017, when Maker cut ties with PewDiePie after offensive videos created a major backlash. YouTube also took action around his premium advertising status and original programming. The point is not the personal drama. The business lesson is sharper than that. PewDiePie was one of the most powerful creators in the world. He represented exactly why Maker mattered: massive direct audience, internet native influence, and cultural reach that traditional media could not easily manufacture. But he also represented the risk. A creator powerful enough to bring enormous value was also independent enough to create enormous brand exposure. Disney could benefit from that reach, but it could not control it the way it controlled Mickey Mouse, Marvel, or Star Wars. At that moment, the contradiction became impossible to ignore. Maker's original model rewarded scale. Disney's business required control. After that, the company began to shrink the network dramatically. Reports at the time said Maker had relationships with around 60,000 creators and planned to reduce that number to roughly 1,000. The strategy moved away from being a massive open creator network and toward a smaller, more curated, more brand-safe operation. That was not just a restructuring. It was an admission that the original Empire model had changed. The thing Disney bought for scale had to be reduced because scale without control was dangerous. The giant creator network became less valuable than a smaller group of creators and content that could actually fit inside Disney's ecosystem. Maker was eventually absorbed into Disney's broader digital network strategy. The name lost the force it once had. The company that had symbolized the future of YouTube entertainment became less of an independent empire and more of a lesson inside a much larger corporation. But that does not mean Maker was meaningless. Maker saw something real before many others did. It understood that creators were becoming businesses. It understood that audiences were moving away from traditional gates. It understood that young viewers did not need Hollywood permission to decide what mattered. In that sense, Maker was right. The creator economy did become huge. Online video did become central. YouTube did become one of the most important entertainment platforms in the world. Individual creators did become brands, companies, publishers, merchants, and media properties. Maker's mistake was not believing in the future. Its mistake was building a business that did not own enough of the future it believed in. It aggregated attention, but attention kept moving. It partnered with creators, but creators could outgrow the partnership. It depended on YouTube, but YouTube controlled the environment. It impressed Disney with scale, but Disney's greatest businesses were built on assets it could control for decades. That is why the Maker Studio story still matters. In media, reach can make a company look powerful very quickly. It can attract advertisers, investors, acquirers, and headlines. But reach alone does not compound like ownership. A real empire is not built only on how many people are watching today. It is built on who controls the asset after they stop watching.